Welcome, everyone, to week 8 of Thinking About DFS. Davis Mattek and Jakob Sanderson with you. We have a 13-game slate. Unbelievable stuff here. We have guys returning from injury. We have truly insane pricing on DraftKings this week. I think it is the weirdest pricing week we have had in DFS. There's going to be a lot of stuff to deal with. So let's not waste any time and let's get it. Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King summer. Wow. Really? Nothing worse than last week in DFS. Yeah, we got an intro here. We are legit. I mean, man, last week, Jacob. I mean, I guess not bad for Crane. Crane found a way to bank in the worst week of DFS ever. But my God, was last week tilting.
So I actually had a profitable week, not a Crane.
My God,
week. I cleared I won like $50, but easily the worst cashing teams that I've ever had. Like I was at the bare minimum of the min cash line in the SPY and in one of my other contests with like the funniest lineups. Like the SPY lineup that made money included Juju with 0, Christian Watson with 1.5, and Grant Calcaterra with 1.5. So 3 of my players combined for 3 of my points. So basically it was just Jahmyr Gibbs putting up a 30 bomb and bringing a bunch of absolute scrubs with him and securing the min cash line. It was a hilarious week of DFS. Like it bothers me more because like when nothing hits and you get like a 3% owned Gibbs putting up 30, it's like, man, like if I could have just picked like minor league fraudulent guys to go around this, it could have been a massive hit. But instead I picked, Christian Watson's 1.5 and Juju's chalky 0.0. So it's just crazy. Yeah. How like the Juju Whittington. Oh, we're not playing at all. Chalk.
Juju Whittington. So Juju injures his hamstring after 7 snaps. Jordan Whittington plays 9 run blocking snaps. He's ruled out for week 8 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, it leads me to believe Sean McVay is just lying to us. Jaden Daniels gets injured. The chalkiest running back, Tony Pollard, gets
a Jaden Daniels lineup.
Yeah, it's just sometimes you just cannot control for the chaos of the NFL. But we have 13 games to get to, and we can actually begin with a great game, theoretically a great game. Baltimore with a team total of 26.5. The Cleveland Browns with a team total of 18. Very simple question for you, Jacob. Can Jameis cook enough to make this a game where the Ravens have to try for 4 quarters? Because if Jameis can cook enough, Lamar, Flowers, Henry, Andrews, likely. I mean, Tillman, Judy, Elijah Moore. I know you are not an Elijah Moore guy. If I could know the final score of one of the games this week, I would probably choose this one, because if I knew that the Cleveland Browns were able to get to 24 points, I would be like, oh my God, we got to have all of these guys. But it could just be a King Henry game.
No, you can lock in the Browns for 24 points. This Ravens secondary is absolute ass. I don't think Marlon Humphrey's playing, is he? That seems unlikely.
He seems like multi-week injured based on Jack Settleman tweets.
So Ravens have already been a pass funnel all year. Marlon Humphrey looking injured. It's Flamus time. I'm pumped for this game. I mean, they announced that Stefanski would no longer be calling plays. It's going to be Ken Dorsey. He loves throwing the ball all over the lot. I mean, I assume that Cedric Tillman might be like, I don't know, like 1,000,000% on what's going to be the deal. I have no feel for ownership yet this early in the week.
So I think the deal is none of them are going to be that owned because they're not as appealing as the Buccaneers guys. All 3 of the Buccaneers guys, Palmer, Shepard, and McMillan, are going to project better because their team total is better and because the market's more certain Baker can play well.
Great. Love it. Early gold star candidate then. People that don't know, I mean, I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan. Cedric Tillman, I've watched pretty much every productive college game he's had. I thought he was like substantially better than Jalen Hyatt coming out as a prospect of those two Tennessee wide receivers. He's the real boy wide receiver, wins at X, wins every contested ball, can beat you on slants, comebacks, run that kind of stuff. He's not like a dynamic dude, but I think he can be a Cortland Sutton type of dude.
I think he's a little dynamic. I think it's kind of unfair. I think he's a little dynamic.
It may be a little dynamic, sure. I don't think he's going to be like he's going to be the guy that's going to catch a slant and then he's going to kind of bully a guy and get an extra 5 yards for the first down. He's not going to be an 80-yard house call guy, but he's a good player. And I think it's more importantly, I think it's a great skill match with Jameis Winston. Like if I'm thinking who's a quarterback that's going to chuck up contested balls,
10 for 200
X wide receiver.
10 for 201 against Georgia.
That was against Keely Ringo.
Yeah. So
awesome.
the larger thing about Tillman is that he was supposed to be like a second or third round pick, and then he got hurt, and then Jalen Hyatt played better than him. I agree with you. He's gold star adjacent. If let's say Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan are each going to be 15 to 25% owned, and Tillman and Elijah Moore are going to be closer to 3 to 5% owned. I agree. The one guy I won't play, I'll tell you this, no interest in Jerry Jeudy for me, brother. He's Jerry Jeudy.
The only Browns, this David Njoku, he gets $1,000 salary increase, which makes it a little bit tough.
Yeah.
But I'm still heavily interested based on how many spots I can save salary. I'm almost if that projected ownership stays where it's under 10 on each of Jameis, Njoku, and Tillman, it will lock me in. You can absolutely lock me in, especially with I don't think Flowers is going to play. So you can lock me in right now for Jameis, Tillman, Njoku, Bateman lineup, and then just all the expensive guys around that. That's happening for me this week.
Season high in target share, season high in targets per route run for Mark Andrews last week. He's so back. We're so back. I think my preferred way to play this is probably Lamar, one of Andrews or likely, and then one of Tillman or Elijah Moore. I like Elijah Moore more than you do. He didn't play in the first quarter last week for disciplinary reasons, but the thing is he has, if they're going to spam 42 passes, Elijah Moore is going to get the layups. Not that Jameis loves to throw layups, but he will be the layup route runner.
Well, whatever layups Njoku isn't taken, that's for sure. He's going to be.
That's true.
David Njoku is about to embark on the most legendary tight end premium PPR scam ever embarked upon in human history. We are about to see so many 15 for 11 for 78 in one games. It's going to blow your mind.
Yes. So we are higher on Baltimore, Cleveland than the consensus. Let's figure out what to do with the Tennessee Titans and the Detroit Lions. So basically my question for you is, no Jameson Williams. Does that make you, it just seems like a horrible game for St. Brown, honestly. But the larger question, and I think this is kind of one of the keys to the slate, is do they ease off of David Montgomery because he left that last game with a leg injury? And could we possibly see a 24 rush attempt Jahmyr Gibbs game?
Yeah, it's going to be a practice report monitoring situation. If Montgomery gets in a full practice, then maybe this will change the projections. But if the projections stay relatively similar to how it is right now, and Montgomery gets in a full practice, then I would just bet on literally nothing changing from the regular rotation, and I will just play David Montgomery in a game script that really should be pro Montgomery. They're probably going to beat the snot out of the Titans this week, and I'd be very into that. If he does not, Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm sure Montgomery will play this week, or at least I think he will. But if for whatever reason Montgomery didn't play in any given week, then Jahmyr Gibbs is probably the RB1 overall in that week, just based on how incredible. There's enough in this backfield for them to both be RB1s. So you subtract one, the other one's going to absolutely crush. He'd be a mandatory play if we thought David Montgomery was going to be limited or out. But I don't know. We've heard on that injury. It's not a big deal. I might go the other way and play a little bit of Monty at 1% in a game where they might win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. To be honest, I'm not really interested in Pollard here. Like last week, you could have talked me in. Well, in fact, I talked myself into just being like, well, it'll be close enough. It was. The Bills did nothing offensively in the first half. I think this one's going to get away from the Tennessee Titans fairly quickly. The other guy to talk about is Laporta. So no JMO. I mean, he's got 3 targets the last 2 weeks. He's expensive. I probably am not going to get there on Laporta, but I think it is defendable.
Yeah. I just want to see a game with more than like 1 target. I mean, this one's the most inexplicable to me, right? Like Mark Andrews is old. He's had his routes cut down. Dalton Kincaid and Mark Andrews had suffered multiple injuries. Kincaid, we didn't think was all that good in the first place, or at least we're worried that he wasn't. Kelsey, he's old. Like, I don't get what is happening with this Laporta stuff at all. Like, if you had told me like JMO breaks out, I was already not that in on Laporta. Then you tell me JMO breaks out, I'd be like, all right, maybe we take him from like a 21% target share to like a 17% target share. But he just never gets targets. Like, would you like Will Dissly is a substantially larger part of this.
I mean, Goff has only thrown over.
Like, what is happening?
Goff has only thrown over 28 passes 1 time. Like, there's just only.
And Laporta probably needs 40 attempts to get 4 targets. It's like he can't. He's like 10% target share guy. I don't know. I have explanations for early in the season, but for it to be this low, it's like so inexplicable to me. I'm struggling to play him unless we see some sort of life. Like I think I need to see like a couple weeks of him getting like 6-7 targets and hopefully not hitting on them, and then we can get in with a little bit more of a foundation. But I just don't know how you play a guy at $4,800 at tight end who's had 1 target each of the last 2 weeks. Like that's a tough sell.
So we go from one disappointment to another disappointment. Anthony, well, actually, who's more disappointing? Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud, the quarterback 5, the quarterback 6 in best ball. Both of these dudes stink. I mean, just the idea of seeing CJ Stroud projected for 20 fantasy points. Has he gotten to 20 fantasy points once? I don't.
Well, he did it against the Colts. He's about to do it again.
There you go. I got to be honest. I've like martingaled this CJ Stroud thing the whole year. It's a 13-game slate. He doesn't have Nico. Probably no. It's probably a no for me. Maybe I'll play a little bit of Dell. Maybe I would play. Like, you know what I'll do, Jacob? I'm gonna get my Colts stuff in Battle Royale. I'll do like 5 Stroud Dell teams or something on Underdog. I don't think I want to play them on DraftKings.
I will play them on DraftKings. I will definitely play them on DraftKings. It's people based on the ownership projections. This is the week people have given up. People have finally, the last couple of weeks it's been, oh, you don't want to play CJ Stroud stuff? Like, why don't you just play Joe Mixon stuff instead? This week everybody's playing the Joe Mixon stuff. The Colts got embarrassed by Joe Mixon in their first matchup against Houston, and after that really made some changes to how they run their defensive scheme to like be more committed to stopping the run at any and all costs after losing to Joe Mixon and to Josh Jacobs, and just be kind of willing to give it up in the pass game even more than they already were. I think that they don't want to lose the same way again. That's just kind of how NFL teams operate. So we'll see. The other thing I'll say about the Colts, they're not going to be as bad of a team this week. They're like almost back to full health. DeForest Buckner's going to play this week. Jonathan Taylor's going to play this week. They've already gotten Kenny Moore back. This is the best version of the Colts that we're going to get all year. And I think they're going to be able to actually keep this semi-close. So I'm pretty optimistic on the CJ Stroud stuff against our lovely secondary. And I'm kind of interested in the Jonathan Taylor 0 ownership first game back. Like if I could play Jonathan Taylor at like 2% or Joe Mixon at like 15 to 20% in the exact same salary range, I will play Jonathan Taylor at 1 to 2% for sure. Anthony Richardson at 5.8, given he was like, I think, was he the QB1 the first week or close to it in this exact same matchup? Tempting. I'll say that. It's tempting.
Again, not really that tempted. Again, really, really not that tempted. You could definitely get away with Schultz this week. Like if I did Stroud, what I would do is I'd do Stroud, one of the wide receivers, and Schultz. The route participation has been elite. The targets have been fine. Honestly, probably prefer the Texans defense. I'll say one thing. Richardson last week, career high in rushing yards, career high in designed rushes, and career high in scrambles. So like basically, I think what they did is they were like, buddy, I don't want to get fired. I'd like to win some games. So Richardson, you better run, buddy, because it's the one thing you can do at a competent level right now. If I have to be the diamond gem mining guy with if I have to be the one dejectedly walking away, fine. And maybe I'll change my tune by Sunday. My opinion right now, Thursday morning, is that I don't need to get there. I'm also not that into $7,700 Joe Mixon. So maybe something has got to give, and I'm probably being the 80 IQ guy on them. But I don't know. There's just so many good games, including this game. The Green Bay Packers traveling on the road to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jordan Love leads the NFL in touchdowns and interceptions. A beautiful combination. We've got Brian Thomas Jr. We've got Jaden Reed. We've got Romeo Doubs. We've got Dontavian Wicks. Like what a game this has the potential to be.
Is this Brian Thomas ownership anywhere near accurate? What the hell is this?
Yeah, again, because first off, it's a 13-game slate. So we've been doing 10-game slates the last 2 weeks. So there's extra games.
$6,400, $6.4K.
Well, do you know what Tyreek
Hill
costs on this slate?
Okay, so that's going to be a problem. But I would rather play Brian Thomas than Jaden Reed very easily.
I would not, because these ownerships will flip. Like Jaden Reed will not. Jaden Reed wasn't double digit last week. He won't be double digit this week.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So if it flips, then sure. I'm saying straight up in a vacuum. Do I want Brian Thomas for 6.4K or Jaden Reed for 6.7K? I want Brian Thomas for 6.4K. But I do like Jaden Reed in this spot. We basically know now with the Packers, Jaden Reed is going to run a ton of routes. Romeo Doubs is going to run a ton of routes, and Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks basically sub each other off. They're going to run about half the routes each. That makes it very difficult for both of those guys. I mean, Wicks has such a high targets per route run that he can get there in half the routes, but you can only get kind of so there. And Watson, of course, the way he's going to score anyways is based on 2 to 3 catches. So half the routes never takes.
Yeah, you can do 2 for 112 and 1. You could do. He's basically, you know who he is? He's Rashid Shaheed on the Packers.
Yeah, he is. It's if you're. So obviously, it's half the chances to get those 2 50-yard bombs, so it hurts. But it's not like you're playing Christian Watson to get 8 catches anyways. So it doesn't. His ceiling is kind of still the same, even if he's running half the routes. You could still get 2 bombs. So, yeah, I think that Packers doubles always in play. The easiest and most straightforward is probably just Reed and Kraft. And then, Trevor Lawrence played a lot better the last 3 weeks. I'm pretty optimistic on them. The interesting thing that I foresee happening that could ruin this game for the Jaguars is the Packers could just do what they did to Houston last week, where they say I dare you to run the ball. Please run the ball. Run it. And Doug Peterson is going to be okay. And he'll
we got Tank Bigsby, brother. Let's just run.
And then they'll be we averaged 5 yards to carry. Why did we lose 27-17? I don't get it. And that's the thing that I can foresee happening in this game that would be difficult.
Are you interested in Jordan Love? Is Love going to make your quarterback mix?
Yeah, I'll probably only play 3 to 5 lineups, so it's hard to know whether I'll get to a Love lineup, but he's definitely going to be in consideration. Yeah. All
right. Basically, this is actually the game you most have to solve relative to the rest of the DFS slate, because Tua Tagovailoa is back for the Miami Dolphins. All the reports from practice are he looks great. Tyreek said media availability on Wednesday. He said start all of us in fantasy. Tyreek is $7,000 DraftKings dollars. Devin A-Chain has a top 10 utilization score, which I like. Dwayne stuff over at Fantasy Life is just so simple. Instead of being it's just it's very simple. He is $6,200. Can already tell. Spoiler alert for the listeners. and for the YouTube viewers, Jacob's going to want to play Jalen Waddle at $5,400. Jonnu leads this team in targets per route run.
Not anymore.
You know what? I actually think that Jonnu was a particularly inspired free agent signing by the Dolphins. I think he matches exactly what Mike McDaniel wants out of a tight end, which is a guy who can move with the ball in his hands well enough and a guy who can block. He's kind of the anti-Durham Smythe. And then McBride is 5,500. James Conner is 6,500. And the Miami front seven is so bad. I think this game could go way. Like if you told me right now Tua actually comes back and just plays well, this game goes over its total. Like, I mean, I might play Tyreek in 100% of my lineups, and I might play A-Chain in 70% of them, and I'm for sure going to be comfortable playing them together.
Yeah, it's a bummer that the pricing is this soft on them because I think that the market sentiment, just based on how easy it's been to like trade for guys like Waddle or Achane or even Hill, while Tua has been hurt in dynasty formats, tells me like a lot of people are a little spooked. But the pricing on this game has made it such that you almost don't have a choice. Like people like Tyreek Hill is 1,500. If this was just Tua, week one, right? Like Tyreek Hill is like an $8,400 player. Waddle's like a $6,500 player. Achane's like a $7,500 player. So everybody's like 1,000 plus below what they're typically priced at. And it's just kind of forcing anyone who's not completely terrified is going to have to play at least one of these guys in the lineup and potentially stack them all. And even the guys that are spooked are going to consider it. It's made it more challenging because there's going to be ownership on every single guy. There's nowhere to hide from it. There's nowhere to really leverage off of it, except for, I guess, maybe Jonnu Smith. So it's going to make it difficult, I think, to manage versus had we just gotten everybody get priced up for his return, then I think you could get a chance to really take advantage of this spot more. I've been really struggling how to play this and seeing how soft the pricing was on it because I wanted to attack the spot. I wanted to get in early, but like the ownership is going to be a little bit prohibitive. I guess with Tyreek Hill, you think of it as like, okay, if he is on the same level as Jefferson or Lamb, the last 2 weeks I've been perfectly happy to play Jefferson into 20%, Lamb into 30%. Even if Tyreek comes in 25, 30%, if you get basically the same play, but at $1,500 less and at similar ownership, then that's still a massive discount. So you just jam it. That's probably where I wind up being, but it does make it a little bit annoying.
So I just ran 150 lineups over on the solver. Actually, I'm only 95 in right now. And this is just by raw projection. And again, it's a pretty early, but basically Tyreek is going to be in every lineup. Interestingly, Achane is a little bit less, which again tracks. For whatever reason, fantasy managers have just always been a little hesitant to buy it. Like you and I are like, oh yeah, Achane, like obviously he's the GOAT, but like it would actually not surprise me at all to see Hill being like far greater owned than Achane. There are more wide receiver options. We just talked about the Cleveland guys. We haven't gotten to the Buccaneers guys yet. And there are just, it's a 13-game slate, so there are a lot of running backs too. My inclination would be to play more Achane than Hill. But to be honest, again, I normally play one entry in the SPY, 2 red zones, the $75 single entry. I mean, I will probably just play Tyreek in all of those. It just, I think because I'm kind of always, and this was even before Sims got so prevalent, but one of the big lessons of Sims is that actually people basically weren't playing the good plays enough. Like a guy who was 30% owned actually probably should have been like 55% owned. And even before that, like I was just like, sometimes you just don't look the gift horse in the mouth. I think you try and beat your opponents at the other 8 spots. And you need to be more thoughtful about what you're doing with your other 8 spots than you normally would. But honestly, I think you can do Tua, Tyreek, and Achane all together. You could include Trey McBride in those lineups. You could include Jonnu in those lineups. Because don't you feel like on top of that, the Dolphins would love to just kind of get their groove back a little bit? And this defense is terrible. Like, wouldn't they love to just put up a classic 40 burger?
For sure they would. I think it's totally reasonable if you pick like Yeah, I mean, I will probably play some Waddle, but I obviously the best two plays from a floor ceiling combo are Achane and Hill. And I think it would be very reasonable if you said in your lineup, sorry, I'm picking one of Achane or Hill, and they're going to be my lock button. Every lineup gets whichever of those two you prefer. So you said Hill, you could do the same thing with Achane. And then you also say, okay, and in a couple of my lineups, I'm just going to do the full stack. So it's like I play 5 lineups, I play Hill in all 5, and in 2 of the 5, it's going to be a stack. And we're going to do Tua, Hill, Waddle, Connor, and then the other one's going to be Tua, Hill, Achane, McBride, or something like that. And I think that's totally fun way to play it. I'm not going to be able to get off the Hill stuff. I don't think I'm going to be able to get off the Achane stuff entirely. I might not play him in every lineup, but I'll definitely play him in a couple. And I mean, yeah, I'm going to have to get myself a couple shares of Jalen Waddle in there somewhere. From the Cardinals side, probably my favorite play is James Conner. Miami has been...
He's the hopes and dreams crusher. 26 rushes for 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. Guess who doesn't get there in that game? Devin Achane.
Anybody else?
Waddle. Yeah, anybody else. And boy, does he look good. It's like he is such the inconvenient truth at running back. You're like, oh, James Conner, dusty. Nope. He just is like the 4th best running back in the NFL every season. Yeah.
He gets better with age, man. He's a fine wine, James Conner. Like 3 years ago, I didn't even think James Conner was that great. Like I thought he was kind of washed on the Steelers.
No, he got better.
Switching and then he got to Arizona and he got better. Like he went from a guy that was like, okay, he's not that good, but he's big and he has soft hands and that's fantasy valuable. And so we'll feed him with touches to like now I'm like, this is one of the best running backs in the league. Like this guy is a weapon. Like I would sign this guy to a $10 million contract next year as like a 31-year-old. Like, yeah, I love watching James Conner play. He's a total baller. And $6,500 like just continues, I think, to underestimate him, especially at his ownership. Like nobody ever wants to play James Conner. He's always like 6,500. He has this incredible role. He's going to catch a few passes. He always is live for the 100-yard bonus. And Miami has been a much better pass defense than run defense. So I like Connor in any scenario. I think if you want to fade all of the Dolphins, which I think is totally viable given the ownership that'll be on them, play James Conner. And if you want to stack this game, then I don't think there's anything wrong with playing Connor as a bringback as part of that.
Yeah. I think that's fine. All right. The New York Football Jets against the New England Patriots. I suppose. I mean, to be honest, I have got no interest in Garrett Wilson. I've got no interest in Davante Adams. I think even in like a hit game for them, like a game where they both kind of get there for your seasonal fantasy teams, they don't even come close to hitting DraftKings optimal lineups. Like Davante Adams can get 19 in this game and be outscored by Sterling Shepard like fairly easily. It's really just Breece Hall. And you know what? I mean, like if you wanted to play Drake May and Hunter Henry in the $12 fair catch, more power to you. But it's really just Breece Hall here. Braylon Allen played 5 snaps in that game against the Steelers.
Yeah. It's been basically ever since Jeff Ulbrich became head coach, we've gotten the Breece Hall role that we wanted when we drafted him in the middle of the first round. If this role holds, he looks like he will be entirely worth that investment for the rest of this season, which is awesome. And yeah, I agree. He'd be the only guy for me in this spot. Like you can make a case for an Adams, a Wilson, a Ramondre, like any of these other guys. But as you've been saying, 13 game slate. I already have tons of guys I'm excited to play in Indy, Houston, in Cleveland, Baltimore, and Miami, Arizona. Outside of Breece Hall, there's nobody else who I feel like is going to make my player pool in this game.
Yep. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. It is what it is. A game that deserves much more attention. We have the Atlanta Falcons with a 24.5 point team total against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The floor is yours. Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting spot here. Probably it's the spot that's hard for me to answer on Thursday morning because the most important thing to me is just who's going to get owned the most and who's going to get owned the least.
McMillan will be the highest.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like to me, there is so much uncertainty here. I think my favorite in a 1-week DFS scenario, like, might be Shep, as gross as that is to say.
Shower narrative.
It's shower narrative familiarity. It's also the fact that, like, Chris Godwin was the one that was really killing. And if I'm thinking about this is their 3 wide receivers, at least for the first week, how would I arrange it? To me, it's Palmer goes in the Evans role, which is already kind of what happened. Well, which is already kind of what happened in game. And then the way that they've operated, like, in terms of that F slot position, like, if you're playing Sterling Shepard, that's kind of where you have to play Sterling Shepard. He's not going to be an outside wide receiver at this stage of his career.
But
And
that's
playing Z all year.
That's the complicating thing. When Jalen McMillan was out, I don't remember what his injury was. Godwin stayed in the slot and Sterling Shepard was playing outside.
Yeah.
So that's just it's very complicated. My guess is actually people are not going to like this. No one wants to hear it after spending a bunch of waiver money on Jalen McMillan. If you made me handicap it, I would say 40% of the time, like 60% of the time, Sterling Shepard plays in the slot because McMillan is going to win better outside than Shepard will. And Palmer is the other clear outside guy. Worth noting, Todd Bowles did just have a press conference like 40 minutes ago, and he called Trey Palmer the wide receiver 1, which, like, I don't know what's going on there. That is bizarre. But my thinking is that, I mean, McMillan is the best 1. So, like, I just want to play the most talented guy. Not interested in Cade Otton chalk. He will be more owned than this. He'll be more owned than 2%.
Absurdly owned.
Yeah. I rank them McMillan, Shepard, Palmer. I think all are viable. I think Palmer is giga leverage because Shepard and McMillan, like these ownership projections that you're seeing on the screen right now, way wrong. Like both of these guys will be well into the double digits. Honestly, it'll be kind of depend on what Michael Leone and his friends that established the run decide to do with the projections. That is really going to influence a lot of that ownership. And I mean, that was a long time in this game without talking about Bijan Robinson, who scores 2 touchdowns last week. I mean, it's set up for the Falcons to put the ball downhill all game because I expect Baker to be like significantly less efficient without Evans and Godwin in there. I mean, we could see a 26 rush attempt Bijan game.
Yeah. Like Bijan in the spot for sure. It's going to be tough to figure out how much I can play him because I think Brees is such a smash spot, and I definitely like Achane more as well. And I kind of want to mix in some of these lower owned running backs. I really like Connor, I really like Taylor. So we'll see if I get to Bijan. It's a great spot for him. Definitely like, all of the Bucs pass catchers. It looks like we're finally going to get Drake London not at like 35% ownership this week. So Drake London has re-entered the chat as a playable option in DFS contests. That's nice to see. Obviously, an absolute smash matchup for him against the pass funnel Bucs, who've just been giving it up to everybody, including the Falcons a couple weeks ago. So I'm in on basically every Falcons pass catcher in this spot. And I don't think you need to get there on a 13-game slate. I almost wish it was an 8-game slate because it could be kind of a fun play. But Rachaad White at 5.7K as the primary pass-catching running back for a team that just lost all of its receivers, probably going to get blown out. He's the comeback mode option. We just saw the ceiling. He just scored like 30 points on Monday Night Football. So I don't know. I'll hand that out as a play that I won't get to, but I think has a way to get there.
Definitely has a way. I mean, he could catch like literally 9 checkdowns or whatever, but Sean Tucker is playing enough and Bucky is just like clearly better than him that like he's got to do it on like literally 11 touches. And if I'm thinking about what is a type of player that can get there on 11 touches, I'm not thinking literally the worst volume rusher in the National Football League. You can get like super leverage if you play Mooney, super leverage if you play McLeod. Like these are like kind of definitional leverage plays. They're leverage on the Buccaneers wide receivers. They're leverage on Bijan. They're leverage on London. Again, I'm not going to get there, but you definitely could. Man, do I wish I wish I was much more excited about this Philadelphia Eagles Cincinnati Bengals game. I just am so uninspired watching the Eagles offense. Can you talk me into anyone other than Barkley in this game?
Probably not. I mean, I think you can actually play AJ Brown like literally every week.
Oh yeah, every week, of course.
So yeah. No, that's not entirely true. I don't know if I'll get there because 13 game slate reasons, but I think that the Bengals passing game is very interesting. Like, I don't fear the Eagles defense whatsoever. And Burrow's been playing fantastic ball. It's just that with the pricing up where it is on a 13 game slate, I think it's very difficult to play the Burrow, Chase, Higgins double and for it to get there. Like that's a little bit more of a smaller slate play for me. So, then it's probably more you pick one, right? And you do the single and then you play either Barkley or Brown coming back, which is also extremely expensive. If there's a week to do it though, it might be this one because you have so many cheap options, right? Like you could probably play Burrow, like basically
Dude,
if you play Burrow and then you play
Chase
one of
is
the
like this might be my gold star of the year. Jamar Chase against this secondary. The Bengals are like in this spot where they can't take anything easy. Like the Bengals had to be full steam ahead 100% every game. I mean, AJ Brown honestly close too, but Jamar Chase will not be 5%. You're going to turn the cards over in the SPY, and Jamar Chase is going to be like 1.8% owned.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk myself into the spot because there's so much salary savings. If you go either Burrow or Hurts, right? One of Burrow or Hurts, I would do Burrow personally, but whatever.
The thing is Hurts just they are committed to the tush push, even against the Giants, even against the revenge game spot for Barkley.
Yeah, but that's a little bit counterproductive to the game stack, right? Like if you want to play Hurts as a solo entity, sure. If you're trying to stack the game, like the way that this game gets there is not like with a bunch of Jalen Hurts tush push bullshit. It's
no, right. That's
passes
so
to receivers. Hurts is kind of his own entity. So anyway, you play one of the two expensive quarterbacks. You play one of Brown or Chase, and you play one of Higgins or Smith. Or you play Barkley in place of either of the Eagles, I guess, is totally fine too. And it's going to eat up a lot of salary. But then you say, okay, well, I'll take Cedric Tillman, or I'll take one of the Bucs guys, or I'll take whatever. And this is kind of the best week ever to do that because not only do you have a lot of pretty reasonably projecting cheap guys, but there are so many of them and there's so many games on the slate that it's not like it's going to be in previous weeks where there's one 3K wide receiver you have to take and everybody that is playing that kind of lineup is playing the same 3K wide receiver. Like you can play Trey Palmer and he won't be very owned, right? I don't know how owned Cedric Tillman's going to, I don't know how owned any of these guys are going to be. You can play 5% owned 3K guys who project reasonably, find yourself the salary to play this expensive stack. And we know Brown, Chase, Higgins, Smith, Barkley, all of these mega ceilings. Man, it's going to be hard for me to get there just because there's so few spots, but I'm already talking myself into this. Like, I think I like this more than I like the Houston Indy stuff. So I'm getting there.
I agree. Yeah. I'm going. Yeah. Chase is going to be the gold star play. And you guys know, I don't even like Jamar Chase, like not a Jamar Chase guy in general, but to me, I just think it's sort of all setting up. This is your explosion spot for him. The New Orleans Saints with Spencer Rattler starting. Alvin Kamara is playing with a broken hand. J.K. Dobbins. Did you think before the season, did you think we would ever see J.K. Dobbins be $6,900 on a daily fantasy slate?
Man, crazy. And not unowned. Not unowned. I love this J.K. Dobbins Renaissance story. It's like one of the few things that I got right this year in my best ball portfolio. I don't think I'll play any of him this week. It doesn't get enough passing game work. $1,600. He's like,
Vidal, man. Vidal's really happening.
Yeah, it is. He plays a lot of the passing down. So, like, I don't know. The Dobbins explosiveness plus pass game combo is so much worse than Breece Hall and Bijan's. And he's priced so close to those guys that I don't think I can get there. And then if I'm going to play into that 6K range, like I'll just go a little cheaper. I'll play James Conner. If I want to play like a Dobbins-ish archetype, Taylor is right there, a little bit higher. Obviously a way better player. and completely unowned. So I'm looking to get to Dobbins. And as a result, I don't think I'm going to play a single player in this game. Because I don't want to play the Saints. They're a mess.
I would play
Like,
if Hayden
you could,
Hurst doesn't play. I would play Disley, totally uncorrelated,
Disley.
unowned. Ladd,
Disley is totally fine. That'd be the only guy I play. Like McConkey's fine, whatever, this week, any week, and it's a spot where maybe I build a lineup and I have exactly 5.1k salary remaining, and I go here, Ladd McConkey, but I'm not going to build lineups around him. And then Kamara, I don't ever want to play Alvin Kamara because I just think he's such a dusty player. And there's better options this week, so I don't need to care about his projection.
So funny. This is such an example of modern DFS. J.K. Dobbins is going to be one of the worst plays of the slate, post-contest Sims, and Alvin Kamara will be one of the best because Kamara will be, projected for 20 points, but 6% owned. Dobbins will be projected the same as A-Chain, who's $500 less than him, and he'll be, this 12% is wrong, he'll be more 16, 17%. No one, the meta in modern DFS is to play the dusty guys who project well, but who no one gets excited about. And then the fancy plays are insanely bad. They just, every week there'll be a guy Jamison Williams was 21% owned last week. It's just it's just terrible. You just can't be doing stuff like that. All right. The Buffalo Bills 25-point team total against the likely DK Metcalf-less Seattle Seahawks. Another game with basically no projected ownership. I'm not in on this Amari Cooper thing. Not really. Sure, maybe he gets there. The routes will go up this week. He's 6,000, so I'm not going to say he's not playable. But the guys I like from this game, non-chalk Kenneth Walker, couldn't be more interested. And how about a real do or die week for our boy, covered by Micah Bernard in his breakout game, a backup running back for the Utah Utes. Imagine the sliding glass doors if that game never happens for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson Smith mid-Jigba, people are calling him. Yeah. I fear I will be on him this week.
I can't believe I got slapped into him this year. The two guys that I was fully out on at the beginning of the season, that had I entered Plato's cave to draft all the underdog teams and brought an internet router, I would have had 0% Xavier Worthy, and I'd have had 0% Jackson Smith and Jigba. And those two guys, I totally let the slappies talk me into. And I slapped them all up.
You'd be changing your tune had Mahomes connected on that pass last week on Worthy. We'll get there. We'll save that. We'll save that for later.
So yeah, I joined the slappy brigade on JSN. I don't have this all myself. Not in Dynasty, to be fair. I have I'm not sure if I have a single share in Dynasty leagues, but in redraft, I do be having some JSN. It sucks. Although he's been much better in even weeks. So if you look at JSN's game log, which I'm going to pull up right now, the odd weeks not been very good, right? You think back to week 1 when we'd given up on JSN, then all of a sudden week 2 comes up, we start feeling optimistic about JSN once again. Here's been the situation for Jackson Smith and Jigba. That was about as long as I could prolong the intro to this segment before actually just pulling up his game log on Sleeper. Week 1, 2 for 19 and 0. Week 2, 12 for 117 and 0. Week 3, 3 for 39. Week 4, 8 for 51. Week 5, 4 for 31. Week 6, 5 for 53. Week 7, 3 for 9. If you just look at his even week game logs, he averages 8.3 receptions for about 70 yards-ish, 73 yards, and 0.3 touchdowns. That's the alpha you need here. So if you want to tug yourself into JSN, tug yourself into...
That's good alpha. I mean, we're chasing the tail of that 16-target game in week 2. I'll say this. Exactly. If ownership holds, we get to Sunday morning, and he's projected for let's call it 6%, 7%, I'm riding the Magic Dragon, and I will play him straight up over Amari Cooper. If I was going to play a Buffalo Bill in this game, it would be one Mr. James Cook. I think Seattle's offense, honestly, is probably going to look like dog shit without DK Metcalf, replacing him with Jake Bobo. But Walker also, man, kind of like a generational opportunity on Walker. Feels like we're not going to get very many slates where he's 5% owned.
Yeah, I'm very into that. And Buffalo, the last couple of years, has been lit up by explosive runners. I'm very into Walker here. I mean, it's pretty wild that he is now pricier than Bijan and Brees on a slate. I don't. Well, it's probably justified over Bijan. I don't think it's justified over Brees, in the sense that straight up ownership excluded. I'd rather play Brees Hall, but yeah, I think Walker's got to be in play here. And I don't know about anyone else. Like, again, if it wasn't such a big slate, I could talk myself into completely unowned James Cook pretty easily, but I just don't know if I'm actually going to go through the process of building a lineup and using one of my 15 running back slots on James Cook this week. But that's an interesting play. And I don't know, I guess, unowned Josh Allen is always interesting. So that could be another big ceiling spot. Yeah.
Or even like Josh, unknown Josh, theoretically, but I don't know. I'm probably not going to get there. A game we are all going to wish, honestly, just never happened. The Kansas City Chiefs traveling on the road to play against the Las Vegas Raiders. This is going to be one of the worst games you've ever watched.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, there are actually 2 plays in this terrible game, which is sort of nice. We have Kareem Hunt, who is going to be my gold star play of the slate. And you can always play Brock Bowers. But Kareem Hunt will get 22 rushes. He will score a touchdown. He will get 2 targets. The question you have to ask yourself is, will he score a second one? Will Mahomes score that second one? Will Samaje Perine score that second one? Will Noah Gray score that second one? Will a backup tackle score that second one? I don't have the ability to answer that. But yeah, no one else is playable on the Chiefs. No one else is playable on the Raiders.
Yeah, totally agree. Just a brutal spot.
What a sad fucking state of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll get here. I'll give you one.
Are they ever going to price Worthy down? What the hell is this? I would love to do the buy low of Xavier Worthy. Oh my God, his target share. Could he be $5.3 thousand? Why?
It's not the way the DK. Not the way the DK algorithm works. It prices guys up and then it never really brings them back down. Here, I'll give you one. If you are like me, a suffering Chiefs fan, the idea of a suffering Chiefs fan is so funny. If you want a little bit of cope, here it is. The Raiders did the dumb Mahomes puppet thing at their training camp and then put the video out, and Kelsey and Mahomes were like, we did not like that. Let's try it. But the thing is are they even capable? If the Chiefs were like, you know what, let's just go put 40. Let's just go and put 40 on someone's head just to see what it feels like. Are they even capable? I honestly don't know.
Definitely capable. That's what's so annoying about it. They are capable. They're going to do this in the playoffs with zero effort. They're going to play the Bills, and the Bills are going to put 14 on them in the first quarter.
Oh God. Well, I'm already praying.
And then the Chiefs are going to be like, oh, well, I guess it's got time to play now. And then they'll go and score 5 consecutive touchdowns.
I'm already praying for Liam in advance for that game. That game is going to be particularly painful.
That's what's going to happen. That's what's so freaking aggravating is that I know they're going to play the Bills in the playoffs. And they're going to be down 14-3 in the first quarter. And then they're going to be like, wait, we got to play football? And they're going to win that game 38-24.
I'm so surprised they did not claim Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I guess they knew they were getting Hopkins, but it was genuinely stunning. All right, this, I think, is the secret game of the week. I think this is the one that people are not going to be woke to, and they should be woke to it. Caleb Williams doubles. 100% back on the menu. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze. All of these guys are in play. These teams are not going to sim that well, but what you can do is you can play absolute chalk with these teams. You can play the chalkiest chalk that is ever chalked. You can play Tyreek, you can play A-Chain, you can play Brees, you can play, I think the Falcons defense is going to be the chalk defense based on early stuff. And this will be I don't know if I'll do this in the Spy or the Red Zone, but this will be my team that gets weird. Instead of playing DeAndre Swift, who will be far more owned than the 7% that people are seeing on the screen, Swift will be more like 15% owned. DJ Moore will be more like 3% owned. Caleb will be like 5% max. This is my spot of the week, Jacob.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting spot. If it's gonna be Mariota, right? Is that what we think?
Yeah, Daniels has not practiced. He's a rookie quarterback. Like they're not risking him.
That's a bummer.
It is a bummer because that would have been great TV.
Yeah, it's a big bummer. So when you say this is your spot, who are the guys that you're most excited about playing? I don't know if I'm as excited about, like, if it was Daniels playing in this game, it would make me way more excited about the Bears. But if it's gonna be Mariota in this game,
Mariota's fine, man. Mariota can execute.
Just,
they're a good running team. The defense is great.
The Bears just don't care about being explosive. Like I'm very sure that Rome Odunze is good, and the Bears don't care. All they want to use Rome Odunze for is opening up space for Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, and Keenan Allen. Like,
sure. I mean, I just think the DeAndre Swift thing has kind of run its course. So the idea that they're going to be able to get away with like DeAndre Swift having 17 rushes and turning that into 112 yards and a touchdown every week, like he could, to me, DeAndre Swift could very easily go back into being the guy he was for the first 4 weeks of the season, like overnight. Then the thing on top of that is I also am looking actively to buy low on Caleb Williams. Like the idea that Caleb Williams is not a really good quarterback. Like it's kind of, you know what it is? This is kind of macro. It's like the thing you and I were saying about Bowers for best ball is like, you don't need to get too bogged down in the specifics because sometimes great players just make great things happen. And that's what I'm saying basically in this spot for Caleb Williams. And we've also lost the scent of how bad the Commanders defense was to start the year because they've got some absolute cupcake matchups the last couple weeks. Like the Panthers were not able to do anything. Like shocking. They get domed by the Ravens. Oh, they did good against the Browns. Guess who did good against the Browns? Everyone. Like worst offense in football. You know, and I guess the Cardinals game was the most bizarre one, but they get smoked against the Bengals. They give up an efficient passing game to Daniel Jones in week 2. They get smoked by the Buccaneers in week 1. Like the defense is still pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that their players are bad. I think Quinn is a pretty good defensive coach, and it
great
takes
defensive
a little bit of time for him to get his system in place. And so I buy that they're improving as they're getting more familiar with Dan Quinn's system. But the players are still bad. So I think there's a limit to how good a system can be against an actual good offense. It's going to be a spot, like they will be in my consideration, right? Like I'm going to have Caleb and all 3 of his receivers. And well, I don't know about Swift. But Caleb's 3 receivers and Kmet will all be in my consideration set. Whether I get to them, I'm not sure. Like I'm going to want to play at least one Burrow stack, I think. Going to want to play at least one Tua stack. I'm going to want to play at least one stack. I don't know what side, but in the Cleveland-Baltimore game. And then this will be in the mix with like the Houston-Indy stuff I want to do, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get there or not.
And I think that is probably where it belongs in the hierarchy of all of this. And I just feel comfortable pushing that spot a little bit.
Yeah.
A spot we don't have to push at all, other than we have to decide what we want to do with one Mr. Jay Williams. The Carolina Panthers, who are now starting Bryce Young. What is the Broncos defense? Oh, 3,700. Thank God the Broncos defense wasn't somehow like 2.8 or something.
Well, look, you can afford it this week. There's some cheap wide receiver plays. You can spend it up on the Broncos defense, and I think I might.
Yeah. So Javonte Williams, I mean, you are the hitchhiker's guide to running backs. What's your take?
Javonte Williams, slappy. Yeah, I'm pretty in on this. The role's good. He plays, Gretsch always notes this, the raw snap rates. He plays like between 35 to 40 raw snaps every single week. He gets all the long down and distance stuff, so he's going to get the majority of the pass work. He mixes in a little bit with Jaleel at the goal line, but he plays most of the goal line stuff. He gets most of the rushing stuff. Incredible matchup. Not going to be that owned because there's going to be other spots. So like I'm pretty interested in this. The question is like, how much ceiling does he have? And I think last week against the Saints, he showed that in the right script, he does have that ceiling. So I'm pretty into playing Javonte this week. Like with everyone, there's so many good plays, it's going to be hard to get there, but I'm going to try and prioritize at least one Javonte lineup. I'll try and prioritize at least one Denver defense lineup, even though it's a big spend. I'll probably try to pair them together. Only other guy could maybe play in this game would be Troy
Sutton?
Franklin.
Oh, I agree with you. I was ready for you to say Sutton, though.
No, I'm not only Sutton. Just of all of the 3 to 4K, like we saw it on NFC and FFPC, right? Like Franklin was very far down the list of who people were bidding on this week. Because people they were excited to bid on Tillman, McMillan, Pearsall, Shepard, all these guys.
In my leagues, he was already owned because I bid him a ton last week.
Yeah, we already had him on our primetime team is hilarious. Like I checked the lineup and we have just a collection of slappy wide receivers. We have
literally the slappiest
single team that has more rookie wide receivers on our team. Listen, these are all we have Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Jordan Whittington, Adonai Mitchell, Jalen Polk, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, and Ricky Pearsall all on the team.
That's a first place team, class. Mind you. I do want people to know that is a first place team. So they need to respect what we have put together. You could also talk me into Hubbard. You really could. I'm not going to do it. I won't. I won't click it anywhere. But if you told me that the sharpest players in the pool wake up on Sunday and have double the field on Hubbard, I would believe you. Not that I would click it myself. All right, are you ready to build a lineup?
Yeah, let's build a lineup. This will be fun. Got a lot of ways to go in this one.
Yeah, we have a lot of ways to go, and I will let you start. You can have whoever you want.
All right. Well, this is what I'm most curious to see about how we build, which is that the Philly Cincy with the Chiefs. So I will get it started with I'll let you do your gold star play. So, but I'll set it up for you. I will pick Devontae Smith in this spot.
So that's interesting. I meant to mention this actually when we were doing the Philly stuff. Grant Calcaterra did run 90% of the routes. Jalen Hurts attempted
13 total routes.
It was 19, but okay. Jalen Hurts attempted 11 passes because of scrambles and sacks. I believe he got sacked 5 times in the first half. So Calcaterra, in the context of this slate, I'll probably go back to him. Again, Slappy Central, but I probably will go back to him. Yeah, I will take my gold star play. I will take Jamar Chase. Worth noting to me, in the context of of modern NFL DFS, you absolutely don't have to do Burrow and Chase. You don't have to do Hurts with Smith because it's so funny. The combinatorial pairings now are so strong that you're sometimes kind of better off just being like, you know what, I'm playing Anthony Richardson, I'm playing Bo Nix or whatever on some of these lineups.
All right. Well, we will see if we play Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts or not. But right now we're going to play. I'm going to get a little bit of salary savings in. The University of Tennessee, fresh off their lovely victory in the third Saturday of October. Give me 7.
Yeah, how lovely was that victory, though?
Pretty lovely. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. That was just a really well-played football game by two top 15 teams.
I've seen a lot of discussion about Nico that is not necessarily glowing about Mr. Nico.
I have two quarterbacks that are very dear to my heart right now, and the most important thing about both of them is that they found a way to win. That's sure. What really matters.
No, that is what matters. All right, let's save a tight end. I think Hayden Hurst is not going to play. I think there are a lot of cheap tight ends you can use. I think you can do Otton. I think you can Disley. I think that you can do Jonnu. I think you could get away with Hunter Henry. On this one, I'm going to take Disley. But just you could put Calcaterra in there. You could put in whomsoever you want. But I think that if you're doing Chase, you can't get away with Kelsey, Ingram, Bowers, Njoku. So I think that's the right way to go.
All right. I'm not sure if there's gonna be a way to put Tyreek Hill in this lineup, so I'm gonna do the next best thing. I will play Devon Achane.
There should be a way to do it. So I think this lineup, if we wanted it to sim well, we'll need to have Brees, and I think we can actually do it. I don't even think it's that hard. So
I think we can too if we go cheap in the flex. I think
let's put the Bears. Let's put the Bears defense in.
Sure.
And we have 6.5K left per slot.
Yeah, we'll be able to play Brees.
Okay, so let's do Brees Hall, and then if we do Burrow, what do we have left at flex? We have 5,400.
5,400. We can make that.
Wow,
work.
that's gonna end up being a Lad McConkey ass pick, I bet.
Let's see what's available to us.
There you go. Exactly. I knew it.
Oh, Jalen Waddle is 5,400. I'm pretty sure
he is, but I'm not. Oh God. Sure. So so doing that construction right there, just building it by hand, what that tells me is actually what might happen is people either spend up at tight end because they have a little bit extra there. So you get more Njoku, you get more Bowers, you get more Kelsey than you expect, or you get the double punt wide receiver. So instead of Devonta Smith, you do Cedric Tillman and Jalen McMillan. And then you spend way up at flex. You have another expensive player at flex.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty crazy week. So all it takes really is you play one of the punt receivers and you punt tight end, and then you can kind of just play all studs from there. I get if you do one more punt, if you go triple punt, then you can play all giga studs versus living in the Smith Waddle range. But this will be a pretty fascinating week.
Yeah,
this makes me more excited about the Anthony Richardson stuff too, because I might play down to Richardson. That'll open up a lot of salary as well, and then you can also go giga studs. So we'll see. So this will be a fascinating week to work through on Saturday and Sunday morning.
Yeah, well, all right, Jacob, who is your gold star play of the slate?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. There's so many good spots here. But in terms of...
It is really a crazy slate.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Bengals and the Eagles stuff. But you're already playing Chase, so I'll leave that game to you. And yeah, I'll just say, of all of the cheap wide receivers, which I think is going to be the most important, or at least one of the most important decision points on this slate, how many of these cheap wide receivers do I play, and which ones do I play? My favorite, Mr. Cedric Tillman, had the 12-target game last week. I do not fear Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy whatsoever. I think he's the best skill match with Jameis Winston in terms of a guy who's going to be downfield. You chuck a ball up to him, he's going to win the contested catch situations. And I think that's going to be a really incredible matchup for this whole Browns offense in their first week, going against the Ravens defense. It's a total pass funnel, and an offense that's been killing everybody. I think that this is a spot you want to get in on early. I'm quite optimistic about the Browns under Jameis, and my favorite way to play that is through Tillman. I'll make him my gold star play.
There we go. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna take Jamar. I'm gonna take Jamar Chase as my wide receiver gold star play. I think this is kind of how often does he outscore Tyreek? Obviously, he's more expensive, but this is a week where it almost doesn't matter because there are 3K wide receivers projected, like 5K wide receivers. And then I'm going to take Javonte Williams. I think he should be closer to, A-Chain basically is going to keep him from being too owned. So there we go. There we have it. Those are your gold star plays: Cedric Tillman, Jamar Chase, and Javonte Williams. Everyone, make sure that you are subscribed to Thinking About Thinking on Substack. Make sure that you are liking the video. And if you made it to the end, tell Jacob and I your gold star plays.
I'm adding James Conner if you're adding a running back. I'm adding James Conner too.
There we go. So you have Cedric Tillman, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, and James Conner as the gold star plays. Comment below your gold star play, and Jacob and I will be back next week Good luck, everybody. It's short king summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's short king summer.